Sometimes life feels like a fight you never asked to be in. You're pushing, you're pulling, you're doing your best to hold everything together with trembling hands and a soul that's running on empty. You pray, you cry, you give it your all, but nothing seems to work. You play by the rules, do everything right, yet the doors stay shut, the people leave, and your plans fall apart. And in the middle of all that, you start to wonder if it's something wrong with you, if you're the one who's broken. But hear this. You are not broken. You're just trying to make something happen before it's time. There comes a point when the strongest thing you can do is let go. Let go of what keeps running away. Let go of what keeps breaking down. Let go of trying to be enough for people who can't even show up for themselves. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's growth. That's where things begin to change. Because the moment you stop forcing what isn't flowing, life starts to make sense. The right people stay, the right doors open, the right path clears. God hasn't overlooked you. He's just moving the pieces around until they fit the way they're meant to. And when it all comes together, you'll see that the pain had a purpose and the waiting was not wasted. Let me say something real, something we don't talk about enough. Holding on isn't always brave. Sometimes it's fear in disguise. Fear of letting go, fear of change, fear of being alone or getting it wrong. We hold on to relationships that drain us, jobs that kill our joy, habits that numb us, all because we're scared of what might happen if we release them. But there is a deeper strength, the kind that rises up when you finally say, I deserve more than this. I'm done sacrificing my peace for things that don't serve me. That moment right there is where your power is born. That's when your life begins to shift. Because letting go is not giving up. It's refusing to keep abandoning yourself for someone or something that won't meet you halfway. We live in a world that glorifies struggle and hustle and calls it strength. As if breaking yourself to prove your worth is noble. But that's a lie. You don't have to keep bleeding for people who wouldn't even offer you a bandage. You don't have to wear yourself out trying to keep doors open that were never meant for you. Some battles are not yours to fight. And the strength it takes to step away from what you once thought you needed is a strength that changes everything. That's when you stop being chained to pain and start protecting your peace. Letting go is not quitting. It's choosing something better. Have you ever held on to something that just kept slipping through your fingers? A relationship, a dream, a version of yourself that doesn't feel real anymore? The tighter you grip it, the more it hurts. Like trying to hold water by squeezing your hand shut, it slips away anyway, and all you're left with is tension and frustration. But the second you open your hand, the second you release the need to control everything, peace flows in. Your spirit breathes again. And sometimes the very thing you're scared to lose is the thing that's been holding you back from becoming who you truly are. The only way to find out what's meant for you is to stop forcing what isn't. We often think we're strong because we stayed. We stayed in that friendship that drained us, stayed in that relationship that starved us, stayed in that job that buried our passion, and people called us loyal, they called us tough. But deep down, we knew the truth. We weren't strong. We were scared. Scared of starting over, of being judged, of admitting that something we gave so much to just isn't enough. But then one day, life whispers to your soul and says, you've been loyal to everything and everyone else. Now it's time to be loyal to yourself. And when you finally listen, when you walk away, not out of anger, but out of peace, that's when you become powerful. Letting go isn't always about leaving a person or a place. Sometimes it's about releasing the story you told yourself about how your life should look. It's about mourning the version you dreamed of and choosing to believe in the one still unfolding. That takes courage. That takes faith. That takes a spiritual kind of strength that says, even if it doesn't look like I hoped, I still trust that it's good. And that kind of trust isn't built overnight. It's built in the fire, in the silence, in the moments when your prayers feel unanswered. But silence doesn't mean you're alone. It means something is growing inside you, around you. There is sacred power in knowing when to walk away, not in bitterness, but in wisdom. When your soul gets tired of reaching for peace, love, or energy in places that only ever return chaos, something in you begins to shift. You start to see things for what they really are. You stop making excuses for people who consistently show you they don't care. You stop confusing suffering with patience. You stop calling pain growth just because you've wrapped it in the language of loyalty, and then you say it, enough. That word carries power. It marks the moment you realize your story isn't over, and you don't have to keep rewriting the same chapter hoping it'll end differently. You might believe that walking away means you failed, that letting go is giving up. But think about what you're actually letting go of. The anxiety, the tears, the sleepless nights spent questioning your worth. That's not giving up. That's rising up. That's reclaiming the parts of yourself that forgot what peace felt like, that forgot what it means to wake up without heaviness pressing on your chest. You are choosing yourself, maybe for the first time in a long time. And no, that's not selfish. It's necessary. Because the longer you stay in spaces that starve your soul, the harder it becomes to recognize yourself in the mirror. And you deserve more than just getting by. You deserve to live, to thrive, to feel joy without apology. Some people won't understand. They might call you names, question your sanity, try to make you feel guilty for protecting your peace. Let them. They weren't there during your darkest nights. They didn't feel the weight you carried while trying to keep it all together. You don't need their validation. You don't owe anyone an explanation for doing what's right for your spirit. Your healing, your peace, your freedom, your life, it's yours. And the sooner you take ownership of that truth, the stronger you become. Not louder, just stronger. A quiet kind of strength, a silent kind of power, the kind that no one can take away. Sometimes we say we're waiting on a sign, waiting on God, waiting on a miracle, when in truth, heaven is waiting on us. Waiting for us to finally release what we were never meant to carry, waiting for us to unclench our fists, to stop trying to fix things that were always meant to fall apart, waiting for us to stop resurrecting what was meant to rest. There's beauty in the letting go. There's rebirth in the release. When you let go, you don't lose. You make room. Room for peace, room for clarity, room for the love and purpose you were always meant to experience. But it starts with a choice. A quiet, steady, courageous choice to finally let go. That doesn't mean the pain disappears. It means it no longer controls you. It doesn't get to shape your decisions, rewrite your future, or define your value. And as you take that first step, as you begin to move forward, something beautiful happens. You start to remember who you are. You hear your own voice again. You trust your heart again. That's the moment healing begins. That's when your eyes open to a beauty that was always there, just waiting for you to see it. And then you realize you didn't lose. You gained. You gained peace. You gained strength. You gained yourself. There's only so long you can carry what was never meant for you before your arms give out and your spirit starts to crack. We've all tried to force things. Relationships that felt one-sided, careers that drained our passion, friendships that quietly disappeared. And every time we forced it, we lost a little of ourselves. You can't make someone love you the right way. You can't push a dream to bloom before its season. You can't turn the wrong thing into the right one no matter how much of your soul you pour into it. What's forced needs constant chasing, constant fixing, constant proving. But real love, real purpose, real peace, they don't need that. They flow, they align, they stay without pressure. Think about the best moments in your life. They didn't need control. The people who truly stayed didn't need convincing. The doors that truly opened didn't require begging. They just opened. They just stayed. They just fit. That's the nature of what's meant for you. It sees you. It values you. It holds space for you without demand. But we get so used to struggle that we forget ease is possible. We forget that flow is real. We mistake our persistence for purpose when sometimes we're just afraid to let go of something we were never meant to hold in the first place. You can pour your heart into something, give all your time and energy, sacrifice everything, and still not make it work. That doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human. And yes, it hurts. It hurts because you believed if you gave more, became more, tried harder, it would stay. But real love doesn't ask you to break yourself to earn it. Real purpose doesn't demand that you lose your identity just to follow it. You can't bend yourself into knots and call it alignment. You can't bleed and call it connection. What's real doesn't ask for that. What's real flows. What's real stays. What's real makes room for you to be whole. You can't silence your truth and call it communication. You can't keep pouring into someone endlessly and call it balance. What is meant for you speaks the language of your soul. It brings peace instead of confusion. It brings growth instead of exhaustion. You don't have to chase it. It finds you when you are still. That is how you know it is real. That is how you know it was sent to you. So many of us mistake struggle for worthiness. We think if we suffer long enough, it will prove we deserve love, success, or purpose. But that is not divine. That is survival. That is trauma trying to speak for truth. You do not earn love through pain. You do not earn purpose through punishment. You receive those things when you align with your truest self. Flow begins when you stop performing and pretending. It begins when you pause, when you surrender, when you trust that what is truly meant for your life will never need to be dragged into place. It will arrive, it will align, and it will stay. That doesn't mean it will not require effort, but it will be a labor of love, not pressure. A journey of peace, not stress. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you had to shrink yourself just to be welcomed? That is not flow. Have you ever spoken with someone who left you doubting your worth more than affirming it? That is not flow. Flow never asks you to dim your light. It never asks you to fight for space. Flow welcomes your presence. Flow says you belong exactly as you are. When you stop forcing things, you stop mistaking disrespect for love. You stop reading chaos as passion. You stop accepting half-hearted effort as devotion. And suddenly, life feels lighter. Because when you are in the right place with the right people doing the right work, breathing comes easier. We've been conditioned to chase everything. Chase love, chase success, chase the ones who left, chase answers that never come. But what if the magic isn't in the chase? What if the miracle is in the release? What if everything you need begins to unfold, not when you grip harder, but when you finally open your hands and say, I trust you to bring me what is mine? That is when the flow begins. That is when things start showing up without effort. That is when blessings arrive quietly and powerfully, not because you fought for them, but because you made space by no longer clinging to what drains you. Flow begins when faith speaks louder than fear. Have you ever watched someone walk away and beg them to stay, only to realize later that their leaving was the beginning of your rise? That is flow. Have you ever lost a job and thought everything was falling apart, only to step into something that set your soul on fire? That is flow. Have you ever mourned something you thought you couldn't live without, and months later found yourself breathing deeper than ever before? That is flow. It does not always look like a blessing at first. Sometimes it looks like loss. Sometimes it feels like failure. But life has a way of clearing the path. And once it does, once you stop clinging to what no longer fits, what is truly meant for you begins to arrive without resistance. Forced things wear you down. They rob you of your confidence. They flood your mind with doubt. They make you feel like you are not enough unless you try harder, but you are enough. You always have been. You were just trying to bloom in soil that could not nourish you. And once you see that, you stop apologizing for outgrowing what no longer serves you. You stop explaining your evolution to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop fixing what was never yours to hold. And in that stillness, in that quiet, sacred moment, life begins to pour back into you. Peace finds its way in. Joy returns. Love flows without force. Alignment does not come with anxiety. Truth does not arrive wrapped in fear. When it is right, it feels like ease. Not because life becomes easy, but because your soul is no longer at war with itself. You are not begging to be seen. You are not pleading to be heard. You are not proving your worth to those unwilling to see it. You are simply being, and that is enough. That is the life you deserve, a life that fits, a life that strengthens instead of depletes, a life that multiplies your light instead of dimming it. and that life begins the moment you stop forcing and start trusting. Pain hits differently. It has a way of silencing the world around you. You sit in the middle of it, wondering what you did wrong, why it had to be you, why it had to hurt this deeply. In those moments, it is easy to believe pain is punishment, that you are broken, that maybe God turned away, that maybe life is indifferent. But hear this, pain is not your punishment. Pain is your redirection. It is life saying, this is not where you belong. It is God whispering, I have more for you, but first I need to break your comfort. Sometimes we don't move until staying becomes too painful to bear, and we don't grow until stillness starts to feel like suffocation. That pain is not your ending. It is a message, a shift, a redirection meant to pull you closer to purpose. The people who left, the betrayals you never saw coming, the doors that shut just when you needed them to open, none of that was sent to destroy you. It was sent to free you. You asked for peace, and God removed the thing that was keeping you up at night. You asked for strength, and He gave you a struggle that taught you how to fight. You asked for clarity, and He cleared the people who were clouding your vision. That pain didn't come to punish you. It came to reveal truth, to peel away the false, to open your hands when you wouldn't let go. Because sometimes we grip so tightly to what is hurting us that only pain can get us to release it. And when your hands finally open, that is when grace can flow in. We have been taught to hide our pain behind smiles, to keep moving and act like we are fine. But pain has a voice, and if you listen, it tells you what is out of alignment. That ache in your chest, that tightness in your spirit, that silent heaviness, it is not weakness. It is your soul trying to wake you up. You are not supposed to keep forcing yourself into places that leave you empty. You're not supposed to keep chasing approval from people who would not notice if you disappeared. You are not supposed to silence your truth just to keep someone else comfortable. Pain rises when your spirit says enough. And in that breaking point, you are given the chance to choose differently, to choose yourself. It takes courage to see pain as a teacher. It takes strength to sit in the discomfort and ask, what is this trying to show me? Most people run. They cover pain with noise and distractions and temporary fixes that never heal the wound. But if you want transformation, if you want true peace, you have to face it. You have to ask, what is this here to teach me? Every time you cried yourself to sleep, every time you felt invisible in a crowd, every time you questioned your worth, pain was not punishing you. It was shaping you. It was preparing you. It was making space for a deeper kind of love, for a real purpose, for a life that actually feels like home. You do not have to pretend the pain is beautiful. You do not have to enjoy the process. But you do have to understand that it is not without meaning. Look back for a moment. That heartbreak that nearly broke you, did it not show you what love is supposed to feel like? That job you lost, did it not push you towards something more alive? That season where everything seemed to fall apart, did it not teach you how to carry your own light? Pain is messy. It is loud. It rarely comes with easy explanations, but it always brings direction. If you stay with it and do not run, it will lead you somewhere better. Pain unmasks the truth. You thought that person would never leave, and they did. You thought that situation was permanent, and it collapsed. You thought you could not live without something, and it was taken from you. And somehow, here you are, still breathing, still rising, still moving. Pain does not feel kind when it comes. It feels like betrayal. But its purpose is not to be gentle, it is to be honest. And honesty is what sets you free. That is what stops you from settling. That is what pulls you out of pretending that being okay is good enough when you were meant to thrive. Pain is not here to torment you. It is here to rescue you from everything that has been weighing you down. You ever notice how your biggest breakthroughs came after your hardest breakdowns? That is not luck. That is how life works. It stretches you before it lifts you. It pressures you before it promotes you. Because pressure reveals what is true. It strips away the distractions. The people who were only there for your highs disappear. The habits you used to numb yourself lose their grip. The things you used to lean on fall away. And in that silence, in that raw space where it is just you and the pain, you discover your faith. You rediscover your voice. You remember your worth. That is the moment of redirection. It is hard, but it is sacred. And when you come through it, you are not just stronger, you are transformed. Pain interrupts patterns. It breaks routine. It drags you out of the cycle that kept you stuck. You may not have moved on your own, so pain had to push you. You were tolerating too much, settling for too little, living just to survive. So pain made you uncomfortable enough to choose change. Not to make you suffer, but to make you see. And once you see, you cannot unsee. You cannot go back to pretending. You cannot keep playing small when you have seen how much more there is. You have been called to more. And pain was the call you could not ignore. It rang loud enough to wake up everything inside you that had fallen asleep. It is okay to cry. It is okay to ask why. But do not let your pain convince you that you are cursed. You are not cursed. You are being carved. You are being refined. You are being directed toward a version of yourself that no longer settles, no longer shrinks, no longer needs broken things to feel whole. You were made for light, for purpose, for power. And sometimes the only way to discover that is by walking through darkness. But you are not walking alone. Every tear is a prayer. Every ache is a message. Every moment of pain is a turn in the road that is leading you somewhere you were always meant to be. Trust the redirection, even when it is quiet, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. One day you will look back at everything that broke you, and you will whisper thank you. Not because the pain felt good, but because it was necessary. Necessary to wake you up, necessary to move you forward, necessary to make space for joy that stays, for peace that does not depend on outside conditions, and for love that feels like truth. Until then, do not curse the pain. Do not resent it. Lean into it. Let it speak. Let it shape you. Let it lead you. Because pain does not mean you have lost favor. It means you are on the edge of finding it. And everything you have been praying for is not behind you. It is not lost. It is waiting on the other side of your surrender. You ever sit there staring at the clock, wondering why everything you asked for still has not come, why the doors you have been begging God to open still feel locked? You have been faithful. You have been patient, or at least tried to be. But still the waiting room feels like a prison. That is when doubt slips in. That is when you start whispering, maybe I am not enough. Maybe it is never going to happen for me. But let me remind you of something true. God's delay is not His denial. His silence is not His absence. His timing is not bound by your deadlines. You can try to rush it. You can try to push it. You can try to force it. But when it is not your time, it will not happen. And when it is your time, nothing will be able to stop it. God's timing is always better than your plans, because He sees what your eyes cannot. He protects you from what your heart is not ready for. He prepares what your soul has truly been waiting for. You wanted that relationship to work. You wanted that job. You put all your hope in that move, that chance, that open door. But it slipped away. It collapsed. And you thought it was punishment. You thought God forgot you. But maybe it was not a no. Maybe it was a not yet. Maybe it was not rejection. Maybe it was construction. God does not want to hand you something you are not ready to keep. He does not want to give you a blessing in a season where the blessing would break you. You think you are ready, but He sees the full path. He sees what is ahead. The betrayals, the pressure, the cracks that would give way under weight. So He pauses, not to hurt you, but to shape you, to strengthen you, to protect you for what is truly yours. You ever rushed something and later wished you had not? You ever begged for something, and when it arrived, you were not prepared for it? That is why your timelines mean little in heaven. God is not interested in your speed. He is focused on your development. He is more concerned with who you are becoming than how quickly you arrive. Because what good is reaching the top if your character cannot breathe at that altitude? God is not slow. He is strategic. While you are counting hours, He is creating moments. While you are staring at the clock, He is looking at your heart. Every second of silence has purpose. Every moment of waiting carries unseen growth. You are being shaped. You are being stretched. You are being transformed. And when it is time, it will happen. Not a second early, not a moment late, right on time, divine time. And I know it is hard. Watching others receive what you are still waiting on. Seeing their prayers answered while yours feel unheard. That is when comparison creeps in. That is when envy tries to take root. But do not let that make you forget your faith. Their chapter is not your chapter. Their path is not your path. What is meant for you will not pass you by. You do not need to compete. You do not need to chase. What is yours is already written. And if it is not here yet, it is still being shaped to fit you in the best possible way. The longer it takes, the deeper the roots. The more it stretches you, the stronger you become. So do not curse the waiting. Learn from it. Rest in it. Trust it. Because the God who made the promise also knows exactly how and when to deliver it. Sometimes God's greatest gift is the prayer He does not answer. You think He is ignoring you, but in truth He is protecting you. You wanted that person, but they would have broken you. You wanted that shortcut, but it would have thrown you off course. You wanted quick success, but it would have fed your ego and starved your soul. God sees what you cannot, and that is why His timing is always better than your deadlines. While you rush to feel something, He waits until you are ready to carry something. You want what shines, He wants what lasts. You chase what feels urgent, He builds what is eternal. So when life feels stuck, when doors stay shut, when answers do not come, pause for a moment and remember the delay is not working against you. Sometimes the delay is the deepest form of His love. There is a peace that comes from trusting a God who is never in a hurry. He is never anxious, never behind. He is steady and sure. And when you begin to trust His timing, that peace becomes yours. You stop striving. You stop begging. You stop trying to force things to happen. Instead, you wake up with hope instead of pressure. You move with faith instead of fear. You learn how to walk without seeing every step because you know the one who made the path. And the beauty of God's timing is that when the blessing finally arrives, it does not bring chaos. It fits. It flows. It feels like home. You will not have to force it. You will not have to beg for it. You will not have to shrink or pretend to keep it, because what is truly meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to receive it. Letting go of your deadline is not giving up. It is growing up. It is realizing that your timing was based on what you thought you needed, while God's timing is based on who you are called to become. You thought you needed to be married by now. You thought you would be healed by now. You thought your success should have already shown up. But just because it did not happen on your schedule does not mean it is not happening at all. God does not work inside the lines of time. He moves through eternity. And sometimes what you call a delay is actually divine alignment. He is lining up the right people, the right resources, the right moments. And when it all comes together, you will see why the wait was part of the blessing. You will look back and understand that the rejection was redirection, that the silence was strategy, that the waiting was working. God's timing will humble you. It reminds you that you are not in control. No matter how well you plan, how hard you push, or how loudly you pray, you do not write the script. You are not the author. You are the vessel. And that is not weakness. That is the beginning of wisdom. When you surrender your timeline, your hands open. And with open hands, you are finally able to receive. You stop clinging. You stop rushing. You stop panicking. Instead, you begin to trust. You begin to breathe. You begin to live in the now with the knowing that even this stretch, this silence, this waiting is part of the story. God does not make mistakes. He does not forget. He does not overlook. He orchestrates. And sometimes what He is building is so much greater than what you asked for that it simply takes more time. But it will be worth every second. You ever look back and thank God for the things that did not happen? That door you prayed would open and it stayed shut. That relationship you chased and it ended. That plan you thought had to work and it fell apart. And now, from the other side, you see the wisdom in the no. You see his hand in every delay. You see his fingerprints on every closed door. You see that he was never ignoring you. He was protecting you. He was preparing something better. And with that realization, all the pressure to make life happen on your own timeline begins to fade. You feel light again. You feel free again. Because you know now that what is meant for you is already yours. You're just being prepared to hold it. So the next time you feel forgotten, the next time the deadline passes, the next time you are tempted to force something that will not fit, remember who you are waiting on. Not a person, not a system, not a plan. You are waiting on the creator of time itself, the one who already knows the ending, the one who already crafted the answer before you knew the question. He is never rushed, never confused, never surprised. His timing is always exact, always wise, always better than your deadline. And have you noticed how loud the world gets when your spirit is tired? Everything around you starts pulling for your attention. Distractions, expectations, pressure. But somewhere in the noise, your soul is whispering, "Be still." That whisper is God speaking. But we drown him out with our motion. We think if we hustle harder, push faster, do more, we will find what we are looking for. But what if the very thing you are chasing is hiding in the stillness you have been running from? What if the clarity you need is not in one more plan or conversation or action step, but in the silence you have been too afraid to enter? Silence and stillness remove the noise and uncover the truth you have been trying to outrun. That is why we avoid them, because forcing feels safer, more familiar, more controllable. But it is in the quiet, when everything else fades away, that the real you begins to surface. That is when God draws near. That is when the lies start falling off. That is when you finally hear the voice buried under all the striving, the voice your soul has known all along. Stillness makes us uncomfortable because it shows us reflections we are not ready to face. When the noise stops, the truth speaks. That relationship you keep holding on to, the silence reveals it is not love, but fear of being alone. That job you cling to for validation, the stillness reveals you have forgotten who you are without a title. That constant need to do, to prove, to achieve. Silence whispers it is because you still believe you have to earn your worth. And we do not want to hear that, so we keep moving. We stay busy, we fill our days. We chase people who do not see us. We try to control outcomes and force situations to match our plans, not realizing the very things we are forcing are the things we are meant to release. Because silence never lies. Stillness never flatters. It reveals. And if you are brave enough to stay in that space, you will find that the truth is not there to break you. It is there to heal you. But healing only begins with honesty, and honesty begins in the stillness. You can only fake peace for so long. You can only smile through the pain for so many days before your soul begins to fracture. That is where silence comes in, not to shame you, but to save you. When you stop moving long enough to actually feel what is going on inside, you begin to see patterns. You begin to recognize what you have been avoiding. Maybe you have been clinging to relationships because deep down you doubt you are lovable without them. Maybe you have been chasing success because some part of you still believes you are only valuable when you achieve. Silence will not judge you for these things, but it also will not let you lie to yourself anymore. Stillness places a mirror in front of your spirit. And if you are willing to look, if you are willing to stop performing and forcing and pretending, God will begin to show you what is real. And what is real is that you do not have to force what is meant for you. Real is knowing that peace is not something you chase, but something you access once the noise dies down. Forcing gives you the illusion of control, but silence reminds you that control is not real. You can manipulate a situation, but you cannot make it right if it was never aligned. You can hold on to people as tight as you want, but if they were never truly for you, they will slip through your hands no matter how strong your grip. Forcing masks insecurity as effort. It wears the face of passion but moves with the energy of panic. That is why we cling to it, because it distracts us from the root. But silence removes the mask. It sits you down and says, let us look at what is really going on. And that is where healing begins. That is where transformation takes root. Not in pressure, not in plans, but in the pause, in the quiet, in the stillness. God meets you there. He shows you who you are without all the noise. And that version of you, the one underneath the hustle and performance, that is the one He has been waiting to reach. The one who does not have to chase worth or force what is crumbling. The one who remembers they were always enough before the world tried to convince them otherwise. Stillness is where you meet your true self. Not the self who is always achieving or pleasing or performing, but the self that has been buried beneath survival mode. When the world is quiet and you are no longer running, you start to feel the ache you have been ignoring. The ache that says, I am tired of pretending. I am tired of performing. I am tired of forcing everything just to feel okay. And in that moment, you realize something holy. The peace you have been chasing in people and titles and accomplishments has been inside you all along. But you could not access it in chaos. You could not connect with it through constant noise. You had to be still. You had to be quiet. And yes, silence might break you down, but it will also rebuild you. It will help you see the difference between what is true and what you have been trying to make feel true. It will return your power, not because you finally made something happen, but because you finally stopped trying to force what was never meant for you. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is no move at all. No reacting, no explaining, no chasing, just stillness. Let the silence speak. Because silence will tell you what words cannot. It will expose motives. It will reveal intentions. It will show you who is really for you. The people who only show up when you are useful, silence will uncover that. The dreams that no longer excite your soul, stillness will make that clear. The lies you have believed about yourself for too long, stillness will begin to undo them. And in that clarity, you will finally see that forcing was never helping you. It was holding you back. You will come to see that rushing was stealing the wisdom waiting to be revealed in the stillness. You will understand that sometimes the quiet is the clearest message of all, because in that silence, God does His most powerful work. That is where He softens your heart, sharpens your vision, and reminds you that your worth has nothing to do with what you produce and everything to do with who you are. You do not need to fear stillness. It is not your enemy. It is your awakening. It is the moment your soul exhales and finally rests. You have been forcing things out of fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of being unseen, fear of not being enough unless you make something happen. But fear is loud and fear rushes. Faith is quiet. Faith trusts the timing. Faith does not panic when things slow down. It understands that what is meant for you will never need to be pushed or chased or manipulated. It will come. It will fit. It will bring peace, not confusion. So when the world says move, but your spirit says wait, trust the stillness. Stillness is not being stuck. It is being prepared. It is being protected. And in that quiet space, you will hear the truth your soul has been waiting for. The life you are building is not about pressure. It is about peace. And you cannot find peace if you are afraid to be still. There are answers waiting in the silence. Clarity you have cried for, wisdom you have pleaded for, peace you have longed for. But they are not hiding in noise. They are not found in more striving. They arrive when you stop controlling people, when you stop proving your value, when you stop reshaping yourself to fit into places that were never made for you. Silence brings you home to yourself. Stillness brings you face to face with what is real. And yes, it is uncomfortable at first because silence does not protect your ego. It reveals what is beneath it. Stillness does not inflate your pride. It humbles it. But that is where freedom lives. Not in the image you are trying to maintain, but in the truth you have been avoiding. And once you meet that truth, you will not want to go back to forcing. You will not need to, because you will remember who you are without the pressure. Stillness shows you who stays when there is nothing to gain. Silence shows you who sees you when you are no longer performing. That is why it is sacred. That is why it matters. The people who really love you, they can sit with your silence. They do not need the show, they do not need the mask, they love you without the performance. And when you stop forcing what was never meant to stay, you make room for what is true to enter. For the first time, you stop chasing and start attracting. You stop begging and start receiving. Your peace becomes your guide. Your silence becomes your strength. Your stillness becomes your anchor. Not because you figured everything out, but because you finally stopped trying to force it. And in that surrender, everything you were searching for begins to find you. When the world tells you to push harder, keep forcing, keep grinding even when your soul is exhausted, choose stillness. Choose silence. Let your spirit breathe. Let your heart speak. The truth you have buried beneath the busyness is still there. It has not disappeared. It is just waiting for you to be quiet enough to hear it. Because the things that are real, your healing, your calling, your peace, your alignment, they do not shout, they whisper. And when you are still enough, when you are silent enough, you will hear them. You will feel them. And they will remind you that what is meant for you will never need to be forced. It will flow. It will feel like peace. It will feel like home. And it all begins when you stop running from the quiet and let stillness finally speak. Healing does not always begin with a breakthrough. Sometimes it starts with a breakdown. That moment when you finally admit you are tired of holding on to what keeps hurting you. That person who keeps tearing at your soul. That habit that keeps numbing your pain. You keep thinking if you hold on long enough, it will stop hurting. Maybe they will change. Maybe this time will be different. But the truth is, the wound will never close if you keep reopening it. Healing starts the moment you stop reaching. Stop calling. Stop chasing. Stop hoping that what broke you will suddenly be the thing that heals you. It cannot. It never could. And deep down, you already know that. But sometimes it is not the person we are attached to. It is the pattern. We confuse pain with love. We confuse suffering with loyalty. But love that constantly wounds you, drains you, disrespects you, confuses your worth, that is not love. That is a lesson. And you do not heal by reliving the lesson. You heal when you finally learn it. You heal when you decide that enough is enough. Sometimes we stay wounded because we're still holding on to what we hoped it would be. We reach for the memory, not the reality. We chase who they were, not who they are now. And that keeps us stuck, reliving the same pain, hoping it ends differently. But healing begins with honesty. It's the moment you admit that what you're clinging to was never meant to stay. You can't grow in peace while running back to chaos. You can't move forward with your hands full of the past. Reaching is a decision, and every time you reach for what hurts, you teach yourself to settle. But your spirit knows better. It's craving something deeper, something true, and you won't receive it if you don't make space. Letting go hurts, but holding on hurts more. You don't need to keep touching the fire to remember it burned. The scar is proof. Let it heal. We think letting go is weakness, but the real weakness is in the fear that keeps us reaching. Fear of being alone, of starting over, of facing the silence. So we chase love and call it loyalty, when really it's fear in disguise. Healing starts when you choose yourself, when you stop begging for what keeps breaking you and finally say, I deserve more. You weren't made for confusion, for disrespect, for survival mode. You were made to live, to breathe, to be loved in full. But you can't walk into freedom while feeding what's starving you. That toxic pattern, that dead relationship, that old version of you, it's not your home, it's your prison. And the key has always been in your hand. You just have to stop unlocking what God already closed. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means seeing clearly and deciding not to go back. It means saying, yes, I love them, but it cost me too much. Yes, I wanted it, but I'm done breaking myself to keep it. That's not bitterness. That's growth. That's truth. You can't pray for peace and keep inviting confusion. You can't ask for healing and keep chasing pain. Your breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your boundary. Your peace is waiting behind your number. That person already showed you who they are. That cycle already showed you what it does, and the longer you reach, the more you teach your soul to settle. But you were not made to settle. You were made to rise. Healing starts the moment you stop reaching for what hurts and start reaching inward, into your soul, into your purpose, into your future. God cannot give you what's next while you're still begging Him to bless what He's trying to remove. Healing begins when you stop making excuses for your pain and finally choose to be free. You can't expect to feel whole while holding on to what broke you. Every time you reach back, you reopen wounds that were trying to heal. You stir up emotions that were beginning to settle and invite confusion where clarity was starting to grow. Real healing asks for consistency. It asks you to stop going back, to stop testing the pain to see if it still hurts. It does. It will. Until you stop touching it. Until you decide you're done. That kind of decision feels heavy. It feels like loss. But what you're losing is not yourself. It's the old version of you that didn't know peace, didn't know boundaries, didn't know better. You're not falling apart. You're shedding. You're evolving. And while it's uncomfortable, healing never feels easy at first. It feels like letting go, but it ends in freedom. There's always a moment where the pain stops just hurting and starts insulting your spirit. That's when something shifts. You realize you don't need closure. You don't need answers. You just need to stop reaching, stop checking, stop hoping they come back different. Because the version of you that keeps reaching is not the version that will heal. The healed you doesn't beg, doesn't shrink, doesn't settle. She stands in truth, even in loneliness. She trusts that what's ahead is better than what she left behind. And that trust, that quiet strength, is where your power returns. But none of it happens if you keep reaching. Healing begins the moment you stop chasing what broke you. And it's not one big moment. It's 100 little choices. Every day, you'll feel the pull to go back. And every time you choose not to, you get stronger. You teach your soul we're moving on now. One day, you'll wake up and realize you're not hurting like you used to. You're not reaching anymore. That's when you know the healing worked. Not all at once, but moment by moment, choice by choice. In every boundary you held, in every tear you let fall without running back for comfort from the same place that caused the pain. That is healing. That is power. That is you rising. There comes a time when the hardest thing becomes the most necessary. Letting go. Not just of people, but of fantasies, expectations, and timelines that never served you. We hold on so tightly to the familiar, even when it hurts, because we fear the unknown. But letting go is not giving up. It's opening up. When you finally release what was never meant for you, that's when the real begins to flow in. That's when God whispers, you're ready now. You're open. I've been waiting to give you more, but your hands were too full. So don't fear the release. Fear the cost of holding on. We think strength is holding on longer. That loyalty means staying, even when it's killing your peace. But real love never asks you to lose yourself. Real purpose never demands your joy as payment. And yet we stay. We stay in broken relationships, draining jobs, expired friendships. We call it loyalty, but it's often fear in disguise. We hold on because we're afraid of the space that comes after. But that space is not emptiness. It's a clearing. It's the beginning of peace. It's where new things take root, where truth returns, where your voice finally gets heard. When you let go, you stop chasing what's walking away and start living from alignment. What is meant for you doesn't need to be forced. It flows. It recognizes your spirit, but it cannot enter until you stop clinging to what was never yours to keep. Sometimes the blessing is in the goodbye. We hold on because we believe we're losing something we can't replace. We fear that if we let go, nothing better will come. That fear keeps us trapped, stuck in cycles that look like hope but feel like pain. But what's meant for you will never require force. What's real doesn't ask you to beg or break yourself to belong. When something is truly aligned with your purpose, it won't diminish your worth or make you question your value. Real love, real peace, real purpose. They don't require you to suffer first. They come when you choose healing over history. when you stop confusing pain with purpose. You don't earn what's real by enduring what's fake. You attract it by releasing what no longer matches who you're becoming. And becoming requires letting go. Sometimes what you're losing isn't a punishment. It's preparation. It's God clearing space for something better. Letting go is quiet. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's choosing not to reply, choosing not to explain, choosing to walk away because your peace matters more than being understood. And in that silence, you begin to hear yourself again. You begin to feel what's been buried. And slowly you realize you don't miss the chaos. You don't miss shrinking to be tolerated. That's when healing gets real. That's when you remember who you were before you started reaching for what never reached back. And when you remember, what's real finds you. Not because you're chasing, but because you're finally whole enough to receive it. Wholeness attracts what wholeness deserves. Some of what we're clinging to isn't just hurting us, it's hiding us. We're not only afraid to lose it, we're afraid of facing life without it. But your identity was never meant to rest in something unstable. Your value isn't determined by who stays or who leaves. When you understand that, you stop performing. You stop proving. You stop compromising the sacred parts of yourself for temporary attention. And in that stillness, you start to shine again. You rise. You see the difference between connection and confusion, between being needed and being cherished, between history and what's actually destined for you. What's real doesn't demand to be chased. It arrives with clarity and multiplies your peace, not your anxiety. Letting go isn't abandonment. Sometimes it's the highest form of love. Love for yourself, for your future, for the version of you that's been waiting patiently on the other side of fear. Saying, "I can't do this anymore," isn't defeat. It's awakening. It's realizing your soul has outgrown the struggle. And yes, it hurts, but it's sacred. Because release is a spiritual decision. It says, I trust what's real will remain. I trust I don't have to suffer to be worthy. I trust the unknown more than what's already shown it's not for me. You weren't created to live in survival mode. You were made to thrive. But clinging to people and patterns that no longer serve your growth keeps you small. When you let go, you don't just find new things. You rediscover the parts of you that got buried. Your joy, your voice, your clarity. They were never lost, just covered by what you kept trying to hold together. And the moment you stop forcing what's fading, you gain sight of what's solid. You remember that what's truly for you doesn't ask you to become less. It invites you to become more. And that version of you, that whole, healed, aligned version, that's the one real love, real peace, and real purpose have been waiting to meet. So no, letting go is not losing. It's remembering what you deserve. It's remembering who you are. There are moments in life when the bravest thing you can do is walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. You cannot keep pouring into others and hoping they will fill you back. You cannot keep giving your breath to spaces that leave you empty. At some point, your healing must become your priority, your peace must become sacred, and your joy must be something no one is allowed to take from you. Letting go does not mean you failed, it means you grew. It means you saw the truth and chose to honor it. It means you stopped pretending and finally chose the unknown over the pain you had grown used to. That is when the shift begins, when clarity returns, when the real starts to move toward you. Because what is truly meant for you will never ask you to force it or chase it. It simply needs a heart that is ready, and when you let go, yours finally is. Letting go is not the end, it is the beginning. A quiet act of surrender that says you are done holding on to what has been breaking you, that you are done trying to fix what was never yours to carry, that you are ready to stand in your truth even if it shakes. And it might shake, you might cry, you might feel lost, but those tears are not weakness, they are release. They are your spirit making room for something better. And soon the light returns, the weight lifts, and the silence no longer feels empty. It feels sacred. You will look back and thank yourself for no longer begging, proving, or chasing. Because what is meant for you will never ask you to lose your peace to keep it. It will meet you with calm, it will honor your growth, and it will fit your soul, not your wounds. When you finally stop clinging and your heart stops reaching, something inside you shifts. The noise fades, the fog clears, and you see that everything you were forcing was only delaying the peace your soul was crying for. We hold on because we think our worth is tied to what we keep, but your value is revealed in what you are willing to release. You do not need to suffer to be loved, and you do not have to prove yourself to be chosen. What is real, whether love or purpose or peace, flows to you without confusion or chaos. It meets you in readiness, not in fear. You have given enough, endured enough, carried enough. Now it is time to let go, not with bitterness, but with grace, because the blessings meant for you cannot come while your hands are full of what you were never meant to hold. They come when your hands are free, your heart is open, and your spirit is still. Letting go is not about losing, it is about making space. And in that space, God moves. He sends what aligns, what restores, what grows. Not because you begged, but because you surrendered. Sometimes what we hold tightest is what blocks the very things we have been praying for. Healing begins when you stop reaching for what continues to hurt you. Growth begins when you choose peace over patterns. And you become powerful the moment you let go, not because you are broken, but because you are finally free. So trust the silence, trust the stillness, trust the release, and most of all, trust yourself. You are not starting over. You are starting from wisdom. You are not behind, you are being positioned. And what is waiting for you is greater than the comfort you are afraid to lose. Breathe rest. Open your hands and let what is real find you. Thank you for choosing yourself, for walking in truth, and for remembering your peace is your power. Stay strong and God bless you.